President Buhari tasks West Africa on tackling economic challenges in the sub-region.
Central Bank of Nigeria raises monetary policy rate to 13%.
After hours of siege, EFCC arrests Rochas Okorocha over refusal to honor invitations following administrative pay.
On Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall discuss leadership expectations 2023 and beyond.
Now, the drumbeat on the political scene is getting louder and diverse actors are dancing to the rhythm. Kingsley?
No question about that, Nadabo. Now, candidates are already emerging to contest the various elective positions from the opposition PDP and the ruling party APC on the other hand, which is starting its own primaries tomorrow, Thursday. It's gearing up for that exercise.
And but beyond ambition, thirst for power and sentiments, social commentators and political watchers are getting apprehensive.
Now, of primary concern, some would say, is the quality of aspirants who, in a sense, are desperate to clinch a spot, irrespective of their actions or inactions in the past, or for that matter, the kind of ideas that they have once they assume positions of authority after the general elections next year.
And many wonder why the concept of leadership seems to be lost on the average Nigerian politician or public office holder with antecedents that tilt towards ineptitude, worsened by corruption, abuse of power, criminality, and terrorism.
Now, there is a school of thought that once described democracy as largely an ideology of great expectations of leadership by the electorate who choose their leaders into positions of authority in the hope of sustainable growth and development.
But in fact, Kingsley, former President Olusegun Obasanjo, some time ago, emphasizing on this, sternly warned that the electorate should be more discerning in choosing their leaders and to save the country from collapse and avoid loose cannons of selfish political office holders that seem only preoccupied with private agenda than the collective well-being of Nigerians.
Well, there's no question about that, Nadabo, that from the primaries that the political parties are already conducting, candidates will emerge who will contest the elections in February and March next year. But the critical work, obviously, would be from May 29th, 2023. What are the issues that those who will get into positions of power, right from the presidency through a number of state government offices, the National Assembly, as well as the state legislatures. What are the issues that they will be taking on, and what are the expectations of the electorate from these persons who, as leaders, then will be assuming the mantle of leadership from next year? That's why we're taking a look at this topic today with regard to leadership expectations 2023 and beyond. My name is Kingsley Osadolo. Welcome to today's edition of Good Morning Nigeria.
I am Yusuf Nadabo Usman, joining Kingsley to welcome you to the program. As usual, we have complimentary segments, and in the course of a bulletin, of course, in the course of the program, we shall bring them to you. In the meantime, here's Dennis Adegunloye with today's news highlights. Good morning, Dennis.
Good morning, Nadabo and Kingsley. Good morning, Nigeria. Here's the morning news. Banking institutions in West Africa have been tasked to effectively collaborate and chart a pragmatic course towards tackling economic challenges confronting the sub-region. President Muhammadu Buhari threw the challenge while granting audience to the executive members of West African Bankers Association, WABA. President Muhammadu Buhari has been conferred with the Chartered Institute of Forensics and Certified Fraud Examiners of Nigeria Global Integrity and Anti-Corruption Award of Excellence. The honor was bestowed on him by the governing council of the Institute's Board of Trustees during an advocacy visit to the nation's seat of power.
Many Nigerians who are serious about eliminating corruption in our country will welcome this review of the National Anti-Corruption Strategy by the Institute. This effort is highly commendable, and it has shown the usefulness of partnerships with professional bodies to stop devices like embezzlement, money laundering, misuse, and mismanagement of public resources.
The Central Bank of Nigeria's Monetary Policy Committee has raised the monetary policy rate to 13%, a first rise in 2.5 years. Governor of the Central Bank, Governor Emefiele, while presenting the outcome of the meeting, noted that the bank will continue to keep rates for development finance at single digits for up to 10 years.
That tightening would help moderate the inflationary trade-off from the steady growth recovery so far recorded and improve real GDP. MPC also feels that tightening will help rein in inflation before it assumes the galloping trend.
To ensure candidates for the 2023 general elections give accurate tax and assets declarations in their forms, INEC and relevant tax as well as anti-graft agencies have reached an agreement to work closely. The partnership was sealed during a meeting at the INEC headquarters in Abuja.
One whose tax status is not in harmony with their declared asset should not be entrusted with public office.
We need to begin to check and to make it clear that we'll not take anything for granted. Leadership comes with enormous responsibilities, and persons entrusted with that responsibility must respect the Constitution and laws of this country.
Operatives of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, on Tuesday surrounded the residence of the former governor of Imo State, Rochas Okorocha, located at number 3 in Yasa Close, Maitama, Abuja, to effect his arrest. The head of media and publicity of the commission, Wilson Uwujaren, says the move followed the refusal of the former governor to honor invitations after jumping administrative bail granted him by the commission. In January this year, the commission filed 17 criminal charges bordering on diversion of public funds and property to the tune of 2.9 billion naira against the serving senator. Attempts to arraign Senator Okorocha were twice stalled owing to his absence and evading service of processes. Mr. Uwujaren says the commission is left with no option other than to effect the arrest of Senator Okorocha and bring him to trial. The Minister of Labour and Employment, Dr. Chris Ngige, says consequential adjustments arising from the 2019 minimum wage arrears are being paid to striking university workers as part of efforts at resolving the ongoing strikes in the nation's public universities. Ngige stated this while responding to questions from the media on the progress so far.
The government has started paying the arrears of minimum wage. They started last Thursday, and as a matter of fact, the universities are getting 23.5 billion. So the polytechnics, I think about 6 point something billion, and the colleges of education 4 point something billion. But aggregately, the government is paying about 34 billion to that education sector in terms of minimum wage arrears. Consequential adjustment.
The payments of arrears of the consequential adjustment of the minimum wage is one of many concerns raised by the striking university workers. And that's the news for now. Good Morning Nigeria continues after the break with Kingsley and Nabo. Good morning.
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria, reaching you from the NTA. One of our extras on this program is business. Now, Africa has a lot to offer to investors in productive sectors across that is agriculture, manufacturing, and digital trade. And African countries believe this would drive the process through various trade corridors to support growth across these sectors. Details of this, here is Comfort Amadou.
With a market of 1.3 billion people and continued GDP projected to reach $7 trillion United States dollars by 2030, financial experts say it is time to position industries to supply the African continental free trade area market.
Always had a focus on growing our exports in the West African sub-region. It has enabled us to think bigger and faster, which is incredibly important with the free trade, African Continental Free Trade Agreement that has started. Nigeria needs to be running. We cannot walk any longer.
You will not be exporting sesame to an African country that also has sesame. You should be adding value. So for me, as we open trade export warehouses and we open trade houses and all of those things that we are opening right now, let us start to think of setting up processing facilities that can add value.
The African Continental Free Trade Area presents African countries, especially manufacturers, with the opportunity to expand to new markets in the continent for exports of value-added goods and services.
Any nation that is able to develop its local automotive sector would add a lot of value to the economy, put that nation on wheels, create thousands of jobs, and the more we localize componentry of the vehicles, the more jobs we will create.
The dwindling oil revenue and the global economic challenge necessitated by the coronavirus pandemic leaves more countries switching into the CFTA and more countries ratifying the agreement establishing the single African market. With Business News, Comfort Amadou.
Thank you very much, Comfort Amadou, for the business package. Coming up next, newspaper review.
Oh, well, Bayo Atebi is already in the house. Good morning, Bayo. Welcome.
Good morning, Yusuf. Good morning, Kinsley. Good morning, Nigeria.
Bayo, good to see you.
All right, let's start with the Punch newspaper and see what is there, especially on the front page, the Punch newspaper, please. Let's start with the story at the topmost, really, I must say, and that's talking about a report which says 51 million phone owners lack NIN and barred from making calls. This is a report, and you want to know which report that is, you go to page 20 of the Punch newspaper. And on page 7, we have Buhari back to Simbajo on Daura's removal. VP not a religious bigot as alleged. That's coming from Ajulo. And on page 19, MAN, LCCI, that's Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, and then Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, others kick against Radi Kick as CBN raises lending rate to 13%. Details on page 19. On page 13, Jonathan meets Buhari's nephew, Mohamed Daura, amid presidential bid. Right below the masthead, we have the main story, which is APC governorship tickets, and it says aggrieved aspirants seek direct primary, alleged governors hijack delegate list. Details of this can be got on page 2, but the writers are Buhari meets governors, NAS leadership, party adjust timetable, fourth time. And the second writer is a building in closed door meeting with Adamu. And the final writer, third, that is, of course, on this very topic is Akinladi, others write party leaders. Moving down to the bottom of the page, you have EFCC breaks into Okoroche's Abuja residence, arrest ex-governor after 7-hour siege. Details on page 11. There are pictures there, as you can see. Then the other stories are NCDC expert warned as Lassa fever kills 152, page 8. Page 11, Page 11, that is, I will change nature of Nigeria's politics, says Hayatuddin. And on pages 4 and 5, ECOWAS awards 20 million naira damages against federal government over Bismarck's death in FCC custody. At the bottom of the page, there are 3 stories, and these include the one on page 8, which is train attack, families cry to federal government as terrorists issue death threat. And on page 3, my mother-in-law lost a daughter last year. This is coming from wife of a sound engineer killed in Lekki. And finally, on the Punch newspaper this morning, we have aspirants hopeful as PDP holds governor's primaries today. That's on page 11. Kinsley?
All right, thanks a lot. We also have the New Telegraph newspaper. New Telegraph, you have the following headlines. CBN jolts analysts, raises interest rates to check inflation as Naira recovers. There will be parallel markets using a different word there. AFCTA, Nigerian trade structure threatens $450 billion potential. And power, federal government considering alternative to national grid. That's attributed to Vice President Oshibajo. NFIU, governors meet over court judgment. Rwanda, global tightening may trigger decline in diaspora remittances. FBI foiled terror plot to kill George W. Bush. That's on page 27. ASU, poly lecturers and others to get 34 billion naira minimum wage adjustment. The lead story has a double-decker headline, drama and gunshots as EFCC arrests Okorocha for jumping bail. Operatives lay siege to mansion for 9 hours. Allow me to attend APC presidential screening. Another headline there on the front page says, submit fake certificates, go to jail. That's according to INEC, warning politicians. And federal government approves A-level data bank to curb fake results. Party primaries, Kalu unopposed, Dino, that's Dino Melaye, loses the bid for the PDP ticket. Details of those stories on pages 3 and 29. Wike dissolves cabinet, sacks chief of staff. Perceived targeted killings, no religious or ethnic killings in Anambra, that's attributed to Soludo, and says indigents have suffered more casualties in the state, as Arewa warns Southeast governors, say nobody has monopoly of violence. Terrorists give federal government 7-day ultimatum on kidnapped train passengers. Bio.
Thank you, Kinsley. Let's start with the alarm raised by families and friends of train abductees on the March 28 train from Abuja to Kaduna. They have called on government to come to the rescue and cede to the demands of the terrorists so as to save their loved ones. They say that the terrorists have threatened to kill their captives except their demands are met. The terrorists had earlier on demanded for the release of their commanders who have been arrested. Their latest demand is for their children, which they say are held at orphanages in Adamawa State. For the persons that have been in captivity of the terrorists were abducted on March 28, and they are spending 1 month and 26 days as at today. And the operatives of the economic and financial crime laid 7-hour siege at the residence of Senator Rochas Okorocha. At the end of it all, tear gas and gunshots were fired to disperse person, and eventually he was forcibly arrested. Earlier on, the former Imo governor had said he found himself hostage in his own compound, and he said, all I'm asking for is to allow me go for my screening. I am a presidential aspirant and our election comes up on Sunday. If I am not allowed to go, I might miss it. But the spokesman for the Economic and Financial Crime Commission, Wilson Wajire, explained that since Okorocha had failed to honor several invitations after jumping administrative bail that was granted him by the commission. He said on January 24th, the AFCC filed a 17-count charge against the former governor of Imo State for diverting 2.9 billion naira of funds, of public funds. The case was filed at the Federal High Court, Abuja, but attempts to get the former governor to come to court on 2 occasions have failed. The AFC says it had no choice when at the last adjourned date, the judge threatened that this is the last adjournment it was going to allow. Due to the absence of the former governor, EFCC said he was left with no other choice than to effect his arrest and bring him to justice. The Anambra state government has put out a statement that there is general insecurity across the country, but there is no targeted religious or ethnic killing in the Anambra state. The statement was signed by Christian Ibrahim, the press secretary to the governor of Anambra State. He says that Anambra indigents have suffered more casualties as a result of the unfortunate killings. And the statement is said that to set the record straight, it must be emphasized that the tendency to stir anger and disaffection in other parts of the country is not going to serve any purpose. Governor Chukwuma Soludo administration has demonstrated commitment in tackling insecurity. He has continually assured both indigenous and non-indigenous of their protection and safety. This is coming after the Arewa Consultative Forum and the Northern Elders Forum have condemned the killing of a woman, a pregnant woman, and her 4 children who was traveling by motorcycle from Isolo, Orumba South local government area. The pregnant woman, her 4 children, and 4 other persons were murdered by elements suspected to be Eastern Security Network, the armed wing of the IPOB. It is said that the 2 fora are demanding that decisive action should be taken by government on the part of the governors and leaders and the elites, that this kind of targeting of people of other extraction and even southern Easterners by IPOB must stop. They call on government to secure the southeast from IPOB and secure the north from bandits. They say that something must be done about insecurity, otherwise even election that we are hoping to hold may become a mirage. Also from Kaduna State, Reverend Joseph Hayab, the spokesman for the Christian Society of Nigeria, says that IPOB members are murderers and cowards and subhumans, and because they oppress innocent people and kill children. They call on federal government to treat them as they are treating Boko Haram. Well, on the other side, in Katsina, in a village called Garkudi, 12 persons were murdered by bandits who invaded their village. They shot sporadically into the air, and some of the villagers were trying to escape to the farmlands, but they shot directly at them and killed about 12 of them. The commissioner of police for Katsina State, Idris Dambaba, has already visited the area, and calm is said to have been returned. And in Ibadan, Oyo State, there was a football match between the 3SC and MFF football match. In the 42nd minute, MFF scored a goal, and they were hoping to win, but in the 92nd minute, MFM equalized. Hoodlums descended on the chairman of Oyo State Sports Council and almost lynched him to death because they said he made them lose a bet worth about 5 million by working on the match. The Commissioner for Information for Oyo State has said categorically, Wasiu Olatubosun says that the state government will investigate and make sure that they are brought to book. Well, you see, the idea of betting and gambling is taking over sports and is becoming a threat to peace and order and even the leisure of enjoying sports. The same thing happens when the Premier League is going on. You see persons who have placed bets on the outcome of the match becoming violent when they are being jeered about their counterparts and when they lose. This is because they are placing a lot of money and betting on those football matches.
Well, we have discussed psychology of betting on Good Morning Nigeria sometime either last year or the year before. It's ongoing. The gambler ultimately is always a loser. No question about that. No matter the peanuts you might get from time to time. But I think there are a number of other serious issues to quickly comment on before we call it a day on the newspaper radio segment.
Before that, before you jump into the serious issues,
yes,
this one too is a little bit serious, talking about the gambling thing and how it is taking over the market as being reported by this newspaper. People are now putting on their lives on the line for this, their life savings, I must say, into this whole issue. And so many other houses are springing up in order to get these things done, and people are patronizing them. It's a big business. Normally, gambling attracts a lot of money. And for the government and authorities, it's, an avenue to get some more revenue. It's a tax avenue for the government. So having to fight this now becomes so much of a problem because this negative effects is now telling internationally. I think something needs to be done. And
the National Lottery Commissioner has a mandate to ensure that gambling is not made to be an exaltation. And the target now are our youths. And that is the danger there. And they are the ones who are resorting to violence when they lose their bets.
Well, as I said, we have discussed this on Good Morning Nigeria, and let me just restate it: a gambler is always a loser. You can punt and win from time to time, but when you do the proper accounting of what you have spent and what you have earned, you will find that you're a loser. The temptation to always continue is there. It becomes an addiction for whoever is engaged in it. But as I said, the serious issue. What was the point in all of that Nollywood drama yesterday at the Abuja residence of the former Imo State governor?
Call that Nollywood drama?
Yes, real Nollywood drama. Because there were videos that circulated of the siege that was laid to the residence by EFCC officials for several hours, supporters coming and praising the senator, and then the EFCC officials then gaining access forcefully into the residence. And at some point there was one video showing the senator lying flat on the floor and beseeching the Almighty to come and rescue him, and they were breaking through the POP ceiling. That's why I call it Nollywood drama. What was the point in all of that? What was the point? You have a case in court, which is more important, for you to have attended the hearings as a defendant, or for you to now be asking that you be given time to go and attend your screening as a presidential aspirant. The judge, by the way, we read that aspect a while ago. The judge had threatened the prosecution that if the defendant did not attend the next adjourned date, that would be the last time, and that the case would be struck out. So if the case is struck out, what does that mean? We always say there should be diligent prosecution. Diligent prosecution means that the prosecution, you have your case file, you have your witnesses, and then you call your witnesses, and the witnesses testify, and whoever is supposed to attend the hearings attends the hearings. And if you had granted administrative bail to a defendant in the matter, and as you said, the defendant was not honoring the invitation, what did you expect the prosecution to do? So sometimes that's why I call it Nollywood drama. We dramatize these things unnecessarily and say, and somebody will say, no, somebody is being treated as a common criminal. Do you have a different law for common criminals and then another one for uncommon criminals?
It may be recalled that the former governor was invited to the EFCC. It was in the news, and he was questioned, and he was granted administrative bail. But what followed was what was probably not in the public domain. But from all indications now, it seemed as if he had a case to answer in court. His lawyer was also there yesterday, and he was saying that they have also filed a process at a court in Abuja and another court in Port Harcourt to stop this process of bringing him to justice. So it's neither here nor there.
No, it's clear. It's clear. There is a case according to the EFCC at the Federal High Court sitting in Abuja, not in Sokoto, not somewhere at Unguru.
Let it be anywhere.
So that you will not say the difficulty of attendance. It's right here in Abuja, and they say that the judge said, look, we are not adjourning this matter any further because the defendant is not. Why has the defendant not? That's just a simple issue. We're not getting into the nitty-gritty of whether the charges are faulty or whether. If you are required to attend court proceedings, you attend the court. If you had attended, all of this will not arise. So I'm not. It's not what the EFCC did. Some persons have suggested, EFCC should have stayed much longer. Every minute you spend out there laying siege is costly. It is not costless. I mean, if you deploy so many personnel for those particular duties, it costs you money to keep them there in the first instance. So if you have a matter in court, attend to it. The issue is diligent prosecution.
We also have to draw attention to the level at which criminality now is being given serious other dangerous meaning. Criminality knows no religion. Criminality knows no ethnicity. Criminality knows no religion. So if a crime is committed, the criminals must be brought to book. And this killing that is going on, decapitating people and cutting off their heads, must be stopped.
Well, whatever it is, Bio and Kingsley, I think it's really a bad case for Okorocha, and of course he has really, crossed the red line for sure. And no matter what it is, we have to really cut it quits on the newspaper review at this segment. We thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's Good Morning Nigeria. We'll be back in a moment with more. Stay back. And to begin our conversation, let's take these views of some Nigerians on the leadership expectations 2023 and beyond, put together by Garba Nata'ala.
As a person, the kind of leader I want and I always dream for Nigerians is a leader with integrity, a leader with a mind of humanity, a leader that will care for the masses, remembering that without the masses, without the grassroots, they won't be there. But most of the leaders that emerge over the years, once they climb, they'll forget the people that put them into the power. It is not so, and that is not what we want in Nigeria come 2023 and beyond.
We need a leader that loves people at heart. I love my country. I cannot do anything evil to do something that can damage the image of our country. So this kind of leader, we need a leader that can love this country at heart. Because to be frank with you, we are suffering. As you can see, thousands of people are feeding under this place. But lack of quality of leadership, they don't think about the promises. What they think about is all about themselves.
I don't get choice. Now only God to go solve Nigerian problem.
The people that have the zeal to bring development to this country, and at the same time, the people that are so patriotic, they are among us. We know them. The only thing that people believe in party politics, we need to throw away this kind of such kind of attitude of believing that it's only if you are giving money or you go to the parties that have money, it will not help us, and it has done a lot of damage to our country.
Well, joining us in the studios to discuss issues around the leadership expectations 2023 and beyond, would like to specially welcome Major General Ibrahim Haruna. In the 1970s, he was the equivalent of a Minister for Information. At that time, they were referred to as federal commissioners. General Ibrahim Haruna, pleasure to have you.
Good morning.
Good morning, Nigeria.
Good to see you again.
I say especially to welcome you because you are a senior citizen, well, in your 80s now. And it's a delight seeing you rise up with us and then our guest again on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very much.
All right. And from our Enugu Network Center, we also would like to welcome another regular guest on the program, Professor Joy Isolo is a professor of public law at the University of Nigeria Enugu campus, and also a former United Nations Special Rapporteur. She is, of course, an activist and a human rights lawyer as well. Professor Isolo, a pleasure to have you this morning.
Good morning, Kingsley, and good morning, Nigerians.
Welcome. And also joining us via Zoom is Senator Adegbenga Kaka, former Deputy Governor Ogun State and a one-time Commissioner for Agriculture. He's joining us from Ijebu-Igbo in Ogun State. It's a pleasure to have you on Good Morning Nigeria.
Well, my pleasure joining the group, and I say good morning to everybody.
Well, thank you. And they will also have Ibrahim Rotimi, public affairs analyst and development expert and political strategist. He's also joining us via Zoom from Ijebu. You're welcome, Rotimi.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, Nigeria.
All right. Once again, our pleasure to have you as our guest on the program today. As we are all aware, the country is in political transition. The political parties, 18 of them, are having their primaries, and they have until the 3rd of June to submit the list of their candidates who will take part in the general elections in February and March 2023. The presidency, a number of state governorship seats, membership of the National Assembly and state houses of assembly are all up for grabs. So the political transition has also raised questions as to what the expectations will be from these various levels of leadership with effect from May 29th next year. That's just about a year away, and therefore what choices are open to Nigerians in this regard. Let's begin this conversation with General Ibrahim Haruna. General Ibrahim Haruna, what do you see on the horizon as to what's playing out and what those who might then emerge from next year's elections will be inheriting, and therefore their task?
Well, our environment precedes what we expect. It's like when there's a pregnancy, you attend antenatal clinic, and at delivery, if there's a wrong presentation, then the doctors may decide either to cut, to deliver, or to terminate, and so on. So I think that what can be expected will be determined by the ongoing political climate. The expectations we have that the INEC, who is supervising elections, will succeed in delivering a democratic succession. If anything in between occurs and the delivery is either aborted or there is deformities in the democratic result, then the situation will determine what will go on thereafter. Our prayer is that the INEC will succeed. The elections will be free and fair. The results will be in accordance with the law and the Constitution. Because if the winning votes do not amount to one of the strictures, that is 2/3 of voters in 2/3 of the states, and things like that, the result may be accepted, may be unaccepted, or accepted on terms. So we pray anyway that we will cross these hazards and we'll have a well-behaved succession like we had in 2015. And then we will expect some performance by the successors, the victors. And what we expect from the victors is leadership of a democratic, peaceful, secured, hoping for the better, and that they will act immediately, because the situation in the economy, in the society, in security is not strange to them.
we expect that they will be well prepared with their manifesto, with their program, and will not take 6 months to appoint offices that they know have to be manned. So one can say we post-election will be predetermined, and then leadership thereafter will be predetermined. We are hoping that things will turn out well, and we can jubilate that we are marching on democratic basis of a Nigerian state.
Okay, thank you so much, IBM Haruna General, and of course, former Commissioner for Information. To every good prayer, we say Amen. And of course, the prayers are so much in the General's opening salvo, and of course, we must really say Amen to that and to all of these prayers. Let's move on to Joy Isolo, Professor of Public Law, University of Nigeria, Nsukka. The horizon is, charged with the politicians moving on and, of course, trying to get themselves registered, per se, in the primaries and then get the tickets from their various parties. And a lot more are happening, so much so now between now and the time they are going to submit their own candidates, the parties, I would say, to the Electoral Commission. What do you say, talking about the topic we're talking about this morning? The talking point is leadership expectation 2023 and beyond. What do you see in the horizon as regards these politicians and the expectations in 2023?
I want to say we've seen spate of violence even for the primaries. And I believe Nigerians want a violence-free election. Nigerians would like a smooth transition. This is a very critical junction. We're at crossroads. There has been so much that has happened. The nation is battered as we speak. And Nigerians also want a visionary leader. They want three things in their leader. They would like to have a visionary leader, a responsive leader, and a leader with character. And I think that is important. But again, we have to understand the limitations of the process, because the process in terms of party primaries is how people's led is that. And then that will also, the input will determine the output. And at the end of the day, Nigerians may not have much option in ensuring that that those they want are really people who made it. Because thinking of even the mercantile politics and the monetization and already how the fees in procuring the expression of interest, the nomination forms of various parties, you can see it's only for the rich. And if it's only for the rich, I wonder how people's led is that process. But at the end of the day, you have to belong to a political party, and it's the parties that will field and nominate their candidate that will stand the election. So we expect that INEC will perform, especially given the new Electoral Act 2022, that law, there will be law and order, and the Electoral Act will be observed to the letter. And if that is done, and that will have less case and less drama with regard to transition, because all the time they go to court, you hardly know, maybe at the end of the day they say you're voting for the party and not a candidate. Nigerians don't want that. We want to make a clear choice. We want to ensure that our vote counts. And the value of that, your vote, you can see the turnout with registration voters, re-registration exercise that is going on, and people are trying to comply because the electoral, the electioneering processes, we want people who are nominated or elected as candidates and finally who will be voted for to keep to their promises. We want political parties to adhere to their party constitution, to adhere to their manifestos. We have to begin to distinguish A from B, apple from oranges, in terms of knowing what ideology of parties and what they stand for. Because as it were, we don't know. People just move from one party to the other, and then that doesn't also help in terms of expectations and meeting up with expectations and yearnings of the people. Our people want to see Nigeria count in Committee of Nations. We want to see a Nigeria where democracy is consolidated and democratic culture is inbuilt in every process at all levels. We want to see an empowered electorate that will continue to push that demand side for accountability, because what we need is accountability. We need efficient and effective government. We need a government that's responsive to the needs of the people. As it were, Nigerians are suffering the hardship the joblessness, the wave of people trying to immigrate, the migration flow out of Nigeria, and the desperation and how they end up in different prisons all over the world. We need to have a country. We need our country back. We need a country that we can proudly call our own. Because each time you look at, I'm a professor, we're on strike. I recently came back from Pretoria where I went to teach. And I look at facilities at University of Pretoria, Faculty of Law. And then I consider the facilities in Nigerian universities. And I say, oh God, what happened? What did we do? How did we get it wrong? That we are at this level of development in this country. Their university world class, can compete anywhere in the world, have visiting professors. And for the short course they are doing, they could have 6-10 professors from around the world come and teach. Can we do that? Can we boast? We can't even host even our own internal professors and pay them on time for the work they do. We are in problem. Our educational system needs emergency declaration on it. We need an empowered electorate, and that means stamping out illiteracy, because actually democracy with a highly illiterate population, you don't really expect much, because people will vote where they want to be voted for. People will vote because of stomach infrastructure and what they are immediately gaining, and that is what is going to happen with the delegate election. We have seen, but we want to say now, the change you want begins with you. And if you want a new Nigeria, and I believe a new Nigeria is possible, a Nigeria we can proudly call our own. We can see things progress, not retrogression, not one step forward, 10 steps backward. That means accountability by both the voters, the followers, and the leadership. Because it's not just the leadership. The followership also, we've got it wrong. Ethnicity has long impacted on our democracy, and it's still impacting on democracy. I think now, probably the sense of what I get, I could be wrong, is that Nigerians want a leader irrespective of where you come from, irrespective of your religion. We want the good old times when even Abiola came out, and people didn't care about the ticket and whether it was Muslim, but people wanted him and people knew he was the man of the people, and people trusted him to develop Nigeria. We want to come to that stage that people will say, this leader, we don't care from where it comes from. But you see what even the elders are doing. And I think the new generation will have to not only engage in cross-generational discourse, but seize power from the old generation, because they are still dealing with a lot of primordial things that is no longer what we want in a globalized world. We are competition, the best, and the best is what is being sold. And we want people with character. Character is everything. Because people are tired of politicians who promise heaven and earth. Look at the power sector, you promise you come and the power, and we are still back to square one. Things are not getting better. We should actually be whipping in Nigeria, but whipping with a determination that we can change our future. And that future depends on our vote. And we're asking institutions that will make that possible to make sure that our vote counts, because that's where that change will be. Starting from our use and not misuse of our electoral power. Because time is now. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Professor Joy Isolo, for your very powerful opening comments. We'll return to you in the course of the conversation. Let's go over now to His Excellency, the former Deputy Governor of Ogun State, Senator Gbenga Kaka, whom we earlier introduced with us via Zoom. Senator Kaka, well, let's have your take on this. We hope your Zoom connection is stable enough. I did say that, look, Nigeria is in political transition right now, but the key thing would play out from next year after the elections are done and dusted, and we have a new set of leaders at the state level, at the National Assembly, some of them, of course, returning or not returning, the state assemblies, and, of course, ultimately the presidency. What are the expectations?
Well, I think we cannot go lower than the situation we have found ourselves right now. Our expectation, and I believe is the same for every Nigerian, is that leadership with fear of God should tower above other consideration. If we have leadership that is having the fear of God, all other things will naturally fall in place. They know that we are but a mortal. Mad acquisition of wealth will not help the society. They can amass, but at the end of the day, once they are conscious of the fact that they are going to leave everything behind them, they will know that all other human beings ought to have a fair share of what is in the society. People should learn to generate wealth and not remain consumer for the sake of consumption. We have seen what we have made ourselves of ourselves. We have seen people flying about in private jets without consideration for others to have just ordinary bicycle. We have seen that education is supposed to be the base for everybody. But unfortunately, we have educated people who care less about others having education. And that's why we remain in a mess. Sincerely speaking, a leadership that will make the economy work, that will make education to work as expected, and let everybody that we call Nigerians, at least if not 100%, we should be able to move towards 80-85%. There are countries, advanced countries, that are having basic education nearly 100%. And we talk of technology, we talk of science. There's no way we can deploy technology and science to advantage without education. The crisis we have at our hand, bordering on security, bordering on insecurity generally, is the fact that there are some people that are hungry, they are uneducated, they are unemployable. So, basic necessity of life, which is food, which is shelter, which is also having potable water to drink, potable water to drink, and of course, water for our agricultural purposes. That is means of livelihood. It is when we provide this for the masses, then we can expect them not to be restless. The restlessness we are having is due to the neglect of the society. And if you are talking of 2023, unless the vote counts, unless the people are given the opportunity to know that they can influence what is going on in our electoral system, then we will continue to move without any motion, without any movement. I am of the view that the common people's vote must count. And that is where the level playing ground people have been talking about comes in. We've had direct, indirect, and consensus in our electoral system. But for reason best known to us, we are opting generally for the indirect rather than direct. Some are even talking about consensus, whereby a single individual will determine the fate of 200 million plus population. This is autocracy. It is no longer democracy. So if we are modern democracy and we are expecting things to fall in line, we may be deceiving ourselves come 2023 and beyond. So let the people's vote comes, let them express what their want is, and the so-called manifesto must be implemented. to the letter, not just deceiving people with high-sounding languages piled up in the Constitution, piled up in the manifesto, only for them to get there and be doing something different from what they profess. We are talking of a rule of law, that we institute rules of law where people respect our Constitution, where people respect the pronouncement of our courts, not just doing whatever they want and then thinking that nothing will happen to them. That tantamount to impunity. I am of the view that if it is possible, our National Assembly should be up to the task. The immunity clause must be removed from the Constitution. Let's remove it. Let people be accountable, both for civil and, of course, criminal offenses while they are still in office. A situation whereby somebody stays for 4 years, bearing in mind that people have very short memory. Then, after a few months, they will forget it after making their noise. No. Instantly, they must be made to be accountable. I can still recollect that when Obama was contesting, there was a governor who single-handedly manipulated the replacement for Obama in Illinois. And what happened? He was removed from the office and he faced the music instantly. Why are we encouraging people to hide under the immunity clause to commit atrocities? It is unacceptable to us, and I think we must find a way of stemming all these things. Otherwise, we just continue in a whirlwind movement that will bring nobody any good.
Benga Kaka. Let's hear from Abayomi Rotimi, public affairs analyst and a development expert, of course, a public strategist. Let's get your opening salvo on this very topic. The talking point is leadership expectation 2023. If you've been following, the guests have been talking about the challenges at the moment, and then which bothers on insecurity, education, the judiciary, even INEC talking about how the votes will count, and then even talking about the National Assembly. What's your opening salvo on this very topic, and what do you see as politicians, go into the field in order to get, recognized and picked as flag bearers? Talking about 2023 elections. Really? Can you hear us? Mr. Abayomi, can you hear us? Please unmute your mic so that we can hear you. Oh, well, before you sort that out, let's come back to the studio here and then meet General IBM Haruna so that we continue our discussion. Much later, we get back to you. You've listened to the other, conversationists on this very topic, sir. And the issues have been that there are challenges really on the ground. And truly speaking, Nigerians need to get their acts together this time around so that, as one of the guests said, we should not really be where we are by 2023, but really beyond where we are in terms of trying to solve these challenges and problems. Looking at the contestants and looking at those vying or trying to get recognized by their parties in terms of getting the primaries and being successful there, do you see this crop of politicians moving towards or having this as agenda to tackle by the time they get Nigeria's votes?
From my own perspective, I see the aspiring leaders as being very enlightened, educated, experienced. They have imbibed the qualities of leadership and democracy in other climes. But what I see developing in Nigeria is a conflict between all these imported aspirations of quality and performance and the dynamics that is working in Nigeria. In that many speakers on the expectations of our leaders in democracy, in fact, do not see the leaders as Democrats. They are enthroning them as if they are the alternative egos of the whole state. In fact, they believe in enthroning a dictator at all levels. They see leadership as an opportunity to dictate what is favorable to their own climate, to their own clan, to their own ethnicity, or to their own group interest. They abandon the notions of democracy. They abandon the notions of accountability and consultations of the people. It seems that that consultation ends with the desire to convince the voters to vote. And thereafter, even the voters are expecting the leaders to become dictators. I think we have to change this attitude where the followership are expecting dictatorship, they are expecting entitlement, to the wherewithals that can be disbursed to them on grounds where they don't even merit such disbursement. They will wish the leader to dictate and perform according to his convictions by the pressure groups that are perhaps nearer to him. And that is where I think that the rule of law must be applied and it must be followed to every class of the citizenry in order to move forward as equal citizens of the Nigerian state. And the performance of the institutions should be subjected to continuous auditing. It should not wait for years to discover that every bureaucrat, every leader has succumbed to using the public purse for his own ends, and those who perhaps have become very influential in putting him in power and sustaining that power. And that is why I think that fundamentally the opportunities should be even on a level ground, and you cannot make citizens to pay the kind of nomination fees. Where do you expect ordinary citizen who wants to avail the people, his leadership, and the opportunities to use his talent in leading the country, or the people generally? That is why dictatorship has become an expectation instead of leadership. Leadership that dwells with consultation, with advice, and putting your best foot forward. So I think the attitude generally of the leaders and the led has to change for us to expect a democracy of a civil society that is built upon and will grow, rather than the instability that will occur if each regime has to go by the quality or the character of those who have been maneuvered into leadership position.
All right. Thank you very much, General Ibrahim Haruna. Let's return to Professor Joy Isolo in our Enugu Network Center. Professor Joy Isolo, I just want to take a few of the comments you made earlier. You did say that we need our country back, and that's a significant assignment for all Nigerians. But you also did say that we are dealing with a matrix of input and output. And the input is what we are seeing in the course of the primaries. And the candidates who emerge will be the candidates that the electorate will be stuck with. That's to say, your choices cannot be outside of the candidates who emerge. And already some of the stories out of the primaries are not quite palatable with the conduct of delegates and many all over the place. We have seen how the Naira, according to some analysts, the Naira has taken a battering on the parallel market on account of the pressures, it is alleged by politicians, to mop up hard currency in order to mobilize their delegates. So, do you find a sense of outrage amongst Nigerians about what is happening? Or do you find a sense of determination amongst Nigerians in general to say, yes, on account of existential challenges, we are truly determined to take our country back and be sure that right from the stage of the inputs to the outputs, we are all concerned about this rather than the apathy sometimes you would find when election time comes?
Thank you very much. I would say that at the level of political parties, you don't see that outrage. You don't see that, people saying, no, I cannot be, because already both the process is so flawed, the process is already rigged, because even from those who are elected delegates is a selection, and it depends on the emperor who is in charge, whether at local government, party level, at state level, and they would predetermine the list and those, and they make sure they are loyalists, and they make sure they are people who, if they say stand here, they stand here. If they say vote this way, they vote this way. And at the end of the day, if you have 100, probably only less than 10 will be able to express their true will. And again, we really have something about illiteracy and how it impacts our democracy that we haven't been able to see. At the party level, some of them can't even tell you, even describe the logo of their party, what their party stands for. And they don't even know the constitution of their party or their manifestos. All they know, they are spectators. And then the big gladiators also are manipulating and using them. But be that as it may, also, I believe everyone is feeling the pain, a pain of bad governance over decades and at all levels. Because when we look at this, sometimes we just think of federal level. I would say no, right from local government that controls a lot of your budget, you see that they are wasting the money and embezzling the fund. So the little access you have at power, whether even as a party chairman or local government party chairman, you use it to make yourself, rich, embezzle money so that you can have access to greater sources of income, which is politics. And then you move from one level of local government to House of Assembly to reps to governor, and you finish as governor, you want to go to Senate. It's the same people, it's the same process. So at what time? And again, also the constraint, I believe, like maybe something like American system, they may have seen. And if you look at the Democrats and how educated people who are Democrats are, they may have seen this in terms of allowing people to express their party where you belong. And you can belong to political parties, because this thing about civil servants, you can't belong to a party, this, that. And then it comes to the stage that, those who are even informed are not the people in the process that can determine. I don't mind consensus, but you don't even need it, because if a party, the process is moving on, people will know that they are not wanted. They will know when they are losing votes. They will step down, obviously, and they will allow. But the process will not throw up our first 11. And we are limited. The space is already constrained, even constrained by the process of nomination and the high amount placed at all levels, because we are looking at presidential. We haven't even bothered to ask how much people paid for even House of Assembly, where their state budgets will matter. So the entire process is monetized, it's mercantile politics. So there is a limitation in terms, and we have no option. Once it comes to those that have been nominated at party level, we are left to vote from amongst them, and we are hoping that they are best. Certainly there are some good people there in the lot, but there is no guarantee that the process will throw up those good people that Nigerians may want. And then, of course, what do? Then we are left with the same people. But I say people can use their vote and begin to demand accountability. Demand accountability for good governance. It is your right to participate in the government of your country, and that starts with your vote. And this your vote you must not sell. I'm even saying some of the party delegates, take the money, take the dollars that is being thrown your way, but please vote in the best interest of Nigeria. Vote in the best interest of Nigeria, what will give us back our country. Because look at the value of the naira, for example, and it affects everything in the supply chain. If you look at it, and then again, I refer to South Africa, where I'm just coming back from. If you look at the naira, I went to South Africa 1998 for the first time. And I can tell you, because I remember exactly how much rand was. It was 9 rands to $1. And I just came back, and it's still 15.4. Within this space of 20-something years, they haven't moved up to 20 rands. And I visit there regularly as a visiting professor. They haven't moved from 9 rands in 1998 to 15.4 under 16 rands in 2022. Look at our own naira. In 1998, so to see that our economy is so badly managed, our people are angry, they are hungry, they are angry, and people are dying for preventable disease because they have no money. People are staying at home, our youth are taken to all kinds of evil, they are being pressured, they are desperate to escape, to have their freedom from fear and want. And I'm saying, turn that anger to making your vote count, because you don't mortgage the future of your children because of a few naira or a few dollars. You have to be futuristic, because those who are getting to manipulate you, and we actually have to lift the veil about who are those who are sponsoring some other people. And I agree with some people who say, look, let us know who are the people sponsoring them, because they are the people who will constitute cabal tomorrow if we have transition. And then they will never allow this country to move, because on the drawing table, on negotiating political table, they have already decided who gets what and who gets what, and who have access and control over something, and not the people that are supposed to determine the distribution of this wealth. So it's not distributed in the best interest of the people. I am really, at times I said, are we really best suited for the kind of democracy we run? Especially given the high level of illiteracy, ignorance, poverty in Nigeria. It's still a question. Probably the Western brand of democracy is no longer the best for us. And we need to think out of the box on how to deal with this. Very expensive process. And I often say, if you look at the money budget of INEC and all of that, and decide to use that in direct development of this country, we will know where that will get us to. And billions and trillions of naira are wasted in this process. I'm beginning to have little faith in that. Even as a lawyer, I believe in rule of law. I stand for rule of law, but we know that we hardly implement it. I had opportunity to visit even India and the Electoral Commission. If you see the building of the Electoral Commission in a country with the largest democracy, I don't even know how to describe it. A state INEC is much better than it. Not fancy. And there were only 3 commissioners nationally. And they described to us. I was involved then in the process of writing constitution. I stayed on constitution making. And we went, it was a trip with even Nigerian, some of the representatives of providing technical assistance. I said, look, you look at the process, and they were describing to us, this is this, this is this. We asked them, how about electoral dispute? They said, hardly anybody goes to court, because you will vote, you will see card reader, you will see everything is recorded electronically. So there is no rigging. We said, how could you get to the hinterland? They said, people carry by camel, go to anywhere. Nobody distort, nobody wants to carry ballot box. People will see people carrying, they deposit all of those, they reach, you know how long it takes them to get the entire country, over 800 million voters vote in election. And still the process is people's-led. And they don't have the kind of case we have. Already the lawyers are smiling. Yes, it's my profession. We're waiting for the Electoral Act. Panels are already empaneled. A lot of money wasted in judicial process, in litigation process. And then we call all of that democracy. I think now is democracy. And we need to rethink. And rethink outside Western metaphysical framework in terms of what really works in a setting like ours. In a setting with scarce resources. In a setting where we have found that leadership is a problem, and followership also even worse of a problem as well, because they have refused also to use the power of their vote because of primordial sentiment of either where you come from, it is my turn, it is not my turn, it's about religion, it's about... We need a new progressive Nigerians who can come out of all of those primordial misgivings and then build a country. You go to UAE, look at their leader that I Sheikh Mohammed, look at what he did in that country, how he transformed it. We need a transformational leadership. We need an inclusive government. We need government where youth will participate, women will participate, and everyone's vote will count. And they will be given a fair playing field. We don't have it. But even at that, I want to be eternally optimistic that really with the law in place, Electoral Act, even though there is still some issues around, but with the law in place, that if the law is observed, and I think INEC is beginning to stand up to do what is right, and I hope they continue in that trajectory and not be derailed by those who control power at all levels. And if they do their bit, I believe if people's vote count, then they will know that people can also vote out leaders. In fact, and be educated that if you don't score a particular minimum number, you are not elected.
Oh, well, thank you, Ngozi Isolo. We'll get back to you again because as you talk, a lot of things come up, and indeed, Nigerians are really curiously listening to you, and then very, really heartwarming to listen to this information. Abayomi, you've heard Isolo talk, and of course, she has been talking about a lot of issues, most of which, revolves around the need for the electorate to see the importance of their votes and to really maximize and benefit, or rather get the maximum benefit from their franchise. The delegates have already been chosen, and of course they are going to work it out for the primaries and get those to be elected by Nigerians. That one is a done case. But for the elections proper, that is why the issue is. Now, do you see Nigerians really looking at these challenges, staring off issues, insecurity, education, illiteracy, poverty, and the economy and the rest of them, being a factor in their choices as they try to really exercise their franchise whenever the election time comes, because that is where the real problem is.
Yeah, well, thank you very much once again for having me on this program. It is always the privilege to be on Good Morning. So once again, let me say good morning, Nigerians. I am very happy to be here once again. Well, I'm going to talk about this from a very unique perspective, at least from a young man's perspective, from the youth perspective. There's something called the law of cause and effect. We wouldn't have gotten to where we are today if there were no, little by little damage going on that was not checked. So 3 factors determine whether we are going to have good governance or not. The people that are going to vote, the Electoral Commission, and the politicians that are vying for position. And I will speak very clearly that these 3 are very important. They are not independent, they are interdependent. Now we have a major crisis. The major crisis is that we have a people that are very hungry. The rate of hunger is very high. And they are not just hungry, they are also not trained. Majority of Nigerian youths are not trained. They are not skilled. And there are different components of being skilled. The primary skill you have, and the secondary skill, which is marketing, how to create opportunities, problem solving. It is very important. Our educational systems are built to build robots and not people who can actually bring solutions. Now, when a mind that is not trained is broke, is desperate. But when a mind that is trained is broke, is creative. And when it's creative, it creates solutions. But when a mind that is broke, that is not trained, is broke, is desperate, and it goes into crime. Now, we have that huge problem. It is very humongous. And we need to check that very quickly before it actually gets worse than what it is right now. However, we now need to know what kind of leader we must, elect. And I put it this way: we need a leader that has the 3 C's: competence, character, and compassion. Competence will make him do the job, no excuse. One unique thing about competence is that you are going to look at every way you can solve the problem without actually giving excuses. No excuse, get the job done. That's what makes you a competent person. You have access to the information. If you don't have access to the information, you have access to the people that have the information. So it is very important. Competence is key. We want a president. We want leaders who understand policies, the proper administration of policies. For crying out loud, if policies are well written and well structured and people are properly selected to carry out these policies and implement them to the, to the grassroots, we're going to solve these problems. But importantly, Nigeria will not change overnight. It was not damaged overnight. So it will not change overnight. And that is why I will never be part of those that blame any administration. What has been going on has been a decay that has been in the system for many generations. So no administration can be blamed on that. However, we must be very conscious of the leaders we want to put into power. Competent. He must be very competent. Then number two, or she must be very competent. Then number two, character. Competence will make you get the job done. Character will make you do the job without compromising standards, without looking into people's faces, without actually getting unnecessarily attached to anyone. You will do the job without compromising standards. And compassion will make you carry everyone along. My own understanding is this: when people see competent leaders, they don't care where you come from. And that is why I'm going to go with what Professor Isolo said, that when people are seeing good things happening in the country, nobody cares about who becomes president or from wherever that president comes from. Just get the job done. There are so many opportunities this country has that we can take advantage of. So going forward, I will also want to say this to conclude that we must take human capital development as a major target for whoever we are going to be voting into power. They must demonstrate a clear plan of how to of how they want to develop the young minds. We have a crisis here. You don't have an idea of how bad it is. What we are experiencing is just 1% of what is actually going to happen. Young people are not exposed to the right information, right education, and right skills. I will end by telling a direct story that involves someone that we accidentally met here. That's Senator Gbenga Kaka. That is one trained mind I know. I was part of the process of his campaign about 10, 12 years ago, and he was attacked. All the boys came together and said, let us go and attack back. He said, no, don't attack anybody. I have made report to the police station and they will do their job. That is how, and that was exactly how the whole thing went peacefully. So we need people with trained minds who are so erudite and very intelligent to understand that you don't need to get personal when it is election. You have a good idea, I have a good idea. If I'm able to market mine better than yours, I beat you to it. Then we can work together when I get into office. Or if you beat me, we work together when you get into office. But before we get to that level, we must train the minds of the people. It is not going to happen overnight. So I end this way. Nigeria was not damaged overnight. It will not change overnight. So we need a transformational leader who has a clear vision. He can't finish it. He will only start the process.
All right. Thank you very much, Mighty Abayomi, there for your comments. We're going to have to take a short break now. When we return from the break, we'll continue with the conversation. All right, you are welcome back, and it's still Good Morning Nigeria live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. We still have all our 4 guests with us. General IBM Haruna here in Abuja, Professor Isolo in Enugu, and Senator Gbenga Kaka with us via Zoom, as well as Abayomi Mighty also with us via Zoom. I want to go over to Senator Gbenga Kaka, former Deputy Governor of Ogun State. The temptation is always there when we approach general elections of this nature, such as the country is currently facing, to focus on the ultimate prize in the political diadem, namely the presidency. But what we have also experienced since 1999 has been a major challenge of governance at the subnational level. Whether you're talking about infrastructural upgrade, dealing with out-of-school children, ramping up the quality of education, agriculture, and others, there is a concern that we haven't had much joy coming from the subnational entities. And ordinarily, election time also ought to be a season for the citizens' voices to be heard with regard to what the expectations will be at that level of governance. Governors have emasculated the local governments, the so-called ungoverned spaces, giving rise to wanton criminality are also issues for us to consider. What, in your opinion, as a former deputy governor, can be done in terms of refocusing governance at the subnational level and by way of expectations?
Well, thank you very much. And viewers, good morning. I sincerely hope that our good morning will not turn out to be good night. First and foremost, we make overemphasis on national level. And it should be so, because when you pour water on your head, naturally, it drains down. So if the head is right, of course, all other things will fall in line. We look at the fish. If the fresh fish is to get rotten, the rottenness starts from the edge. And that's why the issue of leadership is being emphasized and not overemphasized. At subnational level, you discover that at the local government level, nothing is virtually happening, because the local government is regarded by the Constitution as the creation, and its management is also at the whims and caprices of Mr. Governor. So emasculation is what is happening in all local governments. We may even discover that the corruption we are talking about, though on a lower scale, is by far more at the local government level, whereby the local government chairman will have to get to the office only at month end, when the money, the allocation is coming in. And once they finish sharing, they disappear into the thing here. All the others, they scavenge on whatever could be picked upon and get away with. We have a local government chairman that is an executive chairman, but who cannot execute anything because he has long list of staff that he could not discipline. The so-called local government reform vested power with responsibility on the chairman. But the disciplinary aspect of it, that is the authority, resides somewhere, which is the state headquarters. The governor directs the local government service commission, directs the local government and chieftaincy affairs, where things are happening with the commissioner. And what we have? A situation whereby the local government chairman becomes helpless. Somebody committed fraud or any other crime, rather than being disciplined by the man that is at the helm of affairs, you find that person being referred to the state headquarters, where nothing will happen. The worst is transfer him to another local government, and then he will continue the same thing with impunity. Then at the state level, willingly, because of the corruption tendencies, you find all the governors without exception looking up to the national level, whereby they expect nothing other than absolute freedom to do and undo anything they wanted in their respective states. When they commit fraud, they expect a cover-up. So eventually, all the power that's supposed to reside with them, they voluntarily relinquish it to the center. And once it is relinquished to the center, then the center, not necessarily by Mr. President, but if you like, use the presidency that will encompass all the ministries and agents and parastatals. They will now be doing whatever they like, with or without the knowledge of Mr. President. And what is the outcome? It is chaos everywhere. It is a situation whereby we have at the national level, in fact, it is better at the local government and the state level, But at the national level, you have long list of staff that are doing nothing. Sitting in Abuja and wanting to supervise what is going on in Yenegua, wanting to supervise what is going on in Ibadan, wanting to supervise what is going on in Sokoto. Men, they don't have, they are not moving, they don't have the wherewithal to do it, other than whatever is the allocation for them to finish it up through embezzlement. And that's why we are not moving. So, as far as I know, if there must be freedom, those who are assuming leadership at the local government level and at the state level, they must free themselves from the apron strings of the national. A situation where the power is over centralized at the national level will make the burden so much that there's no way we can move forward. I'm sorry to say, look at education. What is stopping us from decentralizing education? It happens in other areas. We have the private sector establishing educational institutions. It is not enough to have that. At the state level that caters for the downtrodden, we should be able to determine at the various local government level what type of primary education we want to give for our own citizen. We must be able at the state level to determine what our priority is. It should be possible for us to independently execute the educational program without relying at the center. There's no way we can over-centralize education and expect us
keep
to
saying this one.
in engineering, we were taught and we were told that the slowest process in an engineering chain determines the overall speed of that activities. So this time,
I'm afraid we've got to really
some states. When we have some states that are not ready for education, it shouldn't be the responsibility of the federal government to attempt to hold down the others. Then you talk of health.
Okay, thank you so very much. Thank you, Senator Kaka. We are really pressed for time here. We really have to cut it short here and then hear the views of some of our participants before we run off this program. We're racing against time, really. Let's come back to the studio. IBM Haruna. One other ruler said a leader is a person that deals in hope. And of course, he's a person whose responsibility is to really see how you can really merge, realities and then face them with what is going to happen as he takes up the mantle of leadership. Now, the talking point this morning is leadership expectations, and of course, 2023 specifically and beyond. In the crop of those seeking to become leaders of Nigeria as we see them go around this country today, do we really have a sense of this playing out by 2023 and beyond from any one of them?
Well, from my own view and perspective, I think we don't have the prospect of getting leaders who will address the system so that the succeeding system will allow us to breed and bring up development in the manner we expect, with the absence of corruption and with some dedication and patriotism. And the simple reason is that the system we are building on is still resembling the colonial imperialist system, where the system builds and brings up from the elite class the opportunities to continue as the leaders at all levels of development, civil service, politics, and so on. I think that the leadership now should look at changing the system, the social, the educational, the development system we are operating, so as to change the priorities. We have to build for people. So the system now is too top heavy, top elitist, and it should be reversed so that priorities and developments will begin from bottom up rather than from top down. And in this, I think that if the leaders begin to look at the system, they will possibly promote the expectations that government is for the people. Government is for the security of life and property, not for the security of the elites. All the hardship we talk today in our system actually impact from the on the grassroots level up, and the system has not given them, or given this, the system has not provided a mechanism that will reverse this. Rather, it is a leadership system that reinforces what appears to be an oppression on the lower scale of society. We have to reverse this so that true freedom or liberty of the people and a sense of belonging can be developed.
All right. Thank you very much, General Haruna, for your comments. Professor Joy Isolo, I want to make your response as brief as possible because we are pressed for time. As I asked earlier, the temptation is strong for us to focus on the national leadership, which ultimately doesn't necessarily cover the field, as it is said. What can we also do at the subnational level to trigger the demand side of accountability, as you said? Demand accountability, demand the right kind of persons who will help crash the numbers of out-of-school children, who will help boost agriculture, boost health at those levels, as well as infrastructural challenges that we'll continue to have from the subnational entities. Briefly, please, Prof. Please, Prof.
I think this is a very important and critical question. There is a lot of emphasis on the national level. It's about over-centralization of power. And even though when we have other tiers of government, we need to decentralize power, and the power closest to the people, they are the local government. And this is where the bad governance starts. In fact, it's the worst form of governance we have across Nigeria. So it is where that demand side should start. And I haven't seen people occupy their local government headquarters to even demand that the local government chairman is, or whoever is not living in that local government, is not residing there, that the councillors elected are not in the villages, they are not residing there, and that they don't even see how they use their money and their budget, and it doesn't matter for them. So this is, but again, I think it's the system and the structures in place that made it so. Because a situation also where local government goes up to the federal government to get their money, and then the state equally does that, and then the structure is such that that everybody takes, it's kind of order is kind of over centralized. Then the power devolution that we expect is not there, but they have their power. And they have their budget, and that is at the level that it will matter. And it will have a matter if political parties can just be at state level. But the way also political party structures in the constitution, they must be national in character. And I think this is one of the faulty system we put in place in our constitution or in our system. Because I may be a political party just interested in my state and in the development of my state, and I don't want to be national. And that way they can make real impact at grassroots level where it matters, so that the principles of democracy, the principles of good governance, accountability, issues of transparency and participation, the predictability, effectiveness, efficiency, anti-corruption, security and securing lives and property can be meaningful to the people where it matters most. And I think we need to step back a bit. In taking back our country, we think local. before thinking national. We demand that demand side, and that demand side, we need to consolidate that and ensure that people the democracy matters to the people at that level. Thank you.
Joy Isolo. Abayumi Rotimi, how would you, hatch your closing comments in 60 seconds about this very talking point, talking about leadership expectation 2023 and beyond? 60 seconds.
I didn't get that, please.
No, I'm saying in your closing remarks on this very issue, how would you hatch it out on us and for us in 60 seconds on this topic?
I'm saying in your closing remarks on this very issue, how would you hatch it out on us? Okay. Yeah, well, to start with, I would say that we have to understand exactly that what will bring about the kind of government we want will be we first understanding the type of society we want. And I think in the next 45 seconds, I would like to actually make that clear. We want a society that we can say has meritocracy, legality, equity, fairness, and justice. And for that to happen, we also have to ensure that the people are educated. When I was growing up, it was compulsory to watch network news and listen to what the government was actually doing. But right now, the minds of the young people or the people are not even there. So we need to emphasize on that. The national orientation has a lot of work to do, and that is why the next government must focus on educating the people on governance, on policies, and on what they should be expecting from the government. Because if we have the critical people, they will ask critical questions and the government will get busy. Thank you very much.
Okay, and I don't know, we may press for time, really. Benga Kaka, we have to really apologize for not giving you even 30 seconds to really give us your closing remarks. But all the same, we thank you so very much, Senator Benga Kaka is the former Deputy Governor of Ogun State and a one-time Commissioner for Agriculture, and he joined us from Ijebu-Igbo. Thank you so very much. It's our pleasure. General Ibrahim Haruna, former Federal Commissioner for Information. You've been part of this house for quite a while. We hope you are going to remain part of it for a great time to come. It's
at your convenience.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And Professor Joy Isolo, Professor Public Law, University of Nigeria in Nsukka, and a former United Nations Special Rapporteur, human rights lawyer and activist. Thank you so very much. It's a pleasure. And finally, Rotimi Abayomi, public advice analyst and development expert and political strategist. It's been a pleasure having you on the program. Thank you so much. Well, thank you so very much. It's a Good Morning Nigeria today. It's going to be another good day for us tomorrow for the program. Until then, I am. Have a great day.
And I'm Kingsley Osadolo.